Part 96. First Marriage Then Love, Mr. Mayor Please Be Kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 978. One update arrived. If we really think about it, Chu Xia's family should be considered Luo Xiaoxin's mother-in-law's family. After all, Zhao Yulan and Zhao Yushan are biological siblings. However, based on the relationship between Chu Xia and Luo Xiaoxin, plus the friendship between Zhao Yulan, Lin Baohe, and her fat aunt Luo Gangshun, it can be said that it is not an exaggeration to say that Chu Xia's family is her mother's family. It's not that everyone has to talk about closeness and distance, but because the elders of both parties came from their hometowns, they have to discuss the issue of where to get married. In the spirit of the man giving courtesy to the woman, Zhao Yushan and Li Aiwan unanimously agreed to give up. The younger sister's family is the natal family of the prospective daughter-in-law. Luo Gangshun and the fat aunt hesitated for a while with embarrassed expressions and finally complied with their wishes, which also made the little reluctance left in the fat aunt's heart dissipate. The Zhao family really takes care of their daughter, so she can't be selfish and only think about her daughter. Regardless of whether her son-in-law will be in danger, it is necessary to add a baby to the Zhao family. She was a straightforward person, and after thinking about it, she immediately found her daughter and told her in a serious manner to help the Zhao family as soon as possible. Luo Xiaoxin's face turned red and she really didn't know what to say. She secretly blamed her for not planning for herself and secretly said that it would be better to have a baby later. Then she came to ask her to have a baby right away. Which is true and which is false? Mom didn't want you to have a child so early, but she didn't want you to have a child so early in the future. After coughing, the fat aunt waved her hand. Forget it, don't say depressing words on this big day. Anyway, no matter what, we will have the next generation as soon as possible. Your husband's family will be very happy, and your father and I will also be very happy. Chu Xia curled her lips at her. Mom, you changed your decision because my mother-in-law and father-in-law agreed to marry us from the Zhou family, right? Yes, the fat aunt admitted frankly, this is indeed the main reason, but it is not the whole story. I have been planning your marriage together in the past 2 days. Your father-in-law and mother-in-law always put us first in everything, and mother is not a no-nonsense person. You're apologizing, you're 100% right, so we can't be mean-spirited anymore, right? Originally, I didn't intend to be mean. Seeing that his mother was about to fall out again, Luo Xiaoxin said quickly, of course I know that my mother is doing it for my own good, but Zhao Liang and I are different from those who just met each other on a blind date. I really have feelings for him, so I want to get married as soon as possible, otherwise, I will definitely listen to my mother, and naturally there will be nothing that my mother is worried about, right? You damn girl, you were just trying to fool me. The fat aunt was so angry that she poked her daughter on the forehead. Mom really takes herself seriously, and she even dragged you out to tell you about this behind others' backs. Hey, you can just dig holes for your mother from now on, you are such a good girl. Mom. Luo Xiaoxin smiled flatteringly, how could I dig a hole for my mother? Don't worry, even if I get married, I will still kiss you and respect you as before. The position of you and Dad in my heart has not changed at all. My mother-in-law and father-in-law treat me very well, and I will respect them as my parents, but they are still incomparable to my parents. Are you saying that your mother is happy? The fat aunt rolled her eyes at her again. If you now think that your father-in-law and mother-in-law are more important than your father and mother, then you, my daughter, will be raised in vain. Mom, didn't you think too much just now? You were so happy. Why did you get so angry in the blink of an eye? Luo Xiaoxin said as she glanced at the door of the house. It seems that my mother-in-law came out and let her see my mother's face. From the look on her face, I might think that my mother is pretending to be happy, but actually she doesn't want me to get married. The fat aunt quickly rubbed her cheeks, looked at the door with a smile on her face. You damn girl, the door was empty, and there was no one there. The fat aunt who was deceived by her own daughter ran away in an instant. Despite the commotion outside, the couple came back home and were all smiles. Overjoyed, Chu Xia pulled Luo Xiaoxian aside and asked quietly, "Fat aunt has figured everything out now?" "How smart," Luo Xiaoxian gave Chu Xia a thumbs up. "I asked you to guess right. Because you count our family as your natal family." "Right." Chu Xia laughed. "When Fat Aunt took you out just now, I told my mother that it must have been my uncle and aunt's actions that moved Fat Aunt, and specifically told you how to be a good wife. My mother is such a straight-up donkey. She says whatever she thinks and shows everything on her face. I guess." Luo Xiaoxian scratched her head in embarrassment. "I guess your uncle and aunt have also guessed it." "What's the matter?" "They did this just to let Aunt Fat and Uncle Gang Shun see their sincerity. To be honest, because you took the initiative to ask for marriage, my eldest aunt is very grateful to you. Yesterday I told my mother that from now on I will treat you 200% like my own daughter, and only a little more. I also said that if you two have any conflicts in the future, no matter whose fault it is, they will take full responsibility for it. The one with 200 blames all the fault on his elder brother. Xiaoxian, you said yesterday that Zhou Mikang was completely obedient to me after I married him. Now you are completely obedient to me except for my eldest brother, and your father-in-law and mother-in-law are also obedient to you. I guess my grandma and grandpa thought the same way. From now on, you can walk sideways in our house. Gee, you are so arrogant. This is how the Queen Mother is treated. Actually." After a slight hesitation, Luo Xiaoxian looked at Chu Xia. "Actually, I don't want to be like this. I really want to marry Zhao Liang and let him leave with some concern. But I don't want my husband's family to feel that they owe me anything because of this matter. When they get along with me, they put me first in everything. After all, I am a junior, so I feel extremely stressed." "That's true." After thinking about it, Chu Xia said, "But you don't have to think too much. Their attitude depends on your attitude. You don't have to talk to them about this now. When you become the daughter-in-law of the Zhao family, stay together for a while, and you can tell them the truth. My grandparents and uncles and aunts are both open-minded people. They will definitely understand your thoughts and make the relationship between you very comfortable. You have to help me with this too." "Okay, I will also tell them what you mean." Chu Xia smiled and hugged her. "How can I not follow my sister-in-law's instructions?" Disgusting, Luo Xiaoxian rolled her eyes at her, and happened to see Lu Lianbao blushing and saying something to Zhao Qiwei, so she pulled Chu Xia and motioned for her to look over. "Okay, let them go, let's not get involved in this matter," Chu Xia said while forcefully pulling Luo Xiaoxian away from the two of them. Ever since Luo Xiaoxian mentioned this matter yesterday, she had noticed that Lu Lianbao was indeed interested in Zhao Qiwei. And it's still very interesting, but judging from Zhao Qiwei's attitude, polite but not close, she probably doesn't have any feelings for Lu Lianbao. So she felt that in order to get along with Lu Lianbao more naturally in the future, what they should do now is to stay away actively and pretend not to know. She wanted to stay away, but she didn't expect that at night, Zhou Mikang took the initiative to ask her, "Do you know what's going on between Zhao Qiwei and Battalion Commander Lu?" "What do you mean?" Chu Xia looked at Zhou Mikang with a puzzled look on her face. "Why did this matter get to your ears? Did Battalion Commander Lu come to you or did you listen to someone else?" "Zhou Hanliang told me specifically that Lu Lianbao fell in love with your sister and went to help her every day. He also said that in order to give Lu Lianbao something to look forward to, he specifically gave him 2 days off to help." Chu Xia had a look of astonishment on her face. She had been wondering before. Luo Hunky only took half a day off to help her sister get married. Why could Lu Lianbao stay there every day? It turned out that someone was making it easier for him. "I guess my sister is not interested, but I didn't ask her about this," Chu Xia said. If it's not interesting, don't let Johan Liang get involved. He came to me and told me this as if he had made a great contribution, and I thought it was true. After a pause, Joe Mixang continued, speaking of which, Lu Lianbao is a good man and a good fighter. If he can really be with your sister, it would be a good choice. You are all thinking about him so much. Why? Chu Xia looked at him with disapproval. If nothing else, when he was able to take a fancy to Zhong Hongying, I thought he had average eyesight. You can't say that. Men see women differently than women see women. So wasn't Luo Hunky also obsessed with Zhong Hongying in the past? As long as they are given time to get along and understand each other's nature, they will definitely I can make the right choice. After thinking about it for a while, Chu Xia asked, Lu Lianbao performed outstandingly on the battlefield. It's not a very prominent problem, it's just that he doesn't want his life. Johan Liang is so anxious to find a tie for him because he hopes that when he goes on missions again in the future, he can spare his life. However, he also performed best in this mission. If his qualifications were not a little lower, he could be promoted to a higher level now. Generally speaking, his future development is very good. You can also explore Zhao Qiui's tone and tell her about Lu Lianbao's actual situation. If she is interested, let them develop. If it is not interesting, forget it. We don't mean to force anyone to do this. Zhao Qiui is still single anyway, so no one mentioned it. Even if she had some interest in it, she would be too embarrassed to say it, right? I know, if you want to put a golden hoop on your beloved general, just say so. Chu Xia rolled her eyes at him. Why do you have to find a bunch of high-sounding reasons? If you continue to play around with me like this, I'll fall out with you. What I said is straightforward enough, how can it be considered a roundabout way? Zhou Mikang looked at his little wife funny. Didn't you say that you felt that your previous attitude towards me was not gentle enough and you wanted to change it? That's why you changed it now in less than a day. Are you planning to change back again? R1152. First marriage then love. Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan Nuan. Chapter 979. Second update. It's hard to change a mountain, and it's hard to change a person's nature. I do have the consciousness to change, but how can I just change into a different person all of a sudden? Or, Chu Xia spread her hands to Zhou Mikang in a shameless manner, you want me to pretend? Okay. Zhou Mikang nodded, if you can pretend, I don't mind. Someone who was defeated by the general continued to lie, your request is too high, I can't do it. Well, you can't do it, and I can't do it either. Zhou Mikang said as he took off his shoes and went to bed, leaning half against Chu Xia. It's so cold, it's too lonely to sleep alone. Chu Xia. Don't wait for this. Do you really want her to lose face in front of Luo Xiaoxiang? Helpless, someone could only smile in a flattering way, hubby, give me some face. His body stiffened, and Zhou Mikang looked at Chu Xia with a burning expression, say it again. When it was time to ask for help, Chu Xia obediently said again, husband, please give me some face. He hugged Baba and looked at his little wife, pressing his hot lips against her. What are you looking at? Feeling uncomfortable being stared at by Luo Xiaoxiang, Chu Xia glared at her, it's not the first time you've seen me, do you need to stare at me like this? He. Luo Xiaoxiang nudged her, what's wrong with your lips? What do you think? Chu Xia, who had been mentally prepared for a long time, looked at her calmly, just say what you think. No need to hold it back. It's just right. Let me see if your guess is right. Chu Xia really said that. Luo Xiaoxiang felt embarrassed, and smiled coyly, I didn't say anything. Then he looked at Chu Xia with some anxiety, by the way, the teacher is not angry with me, is he? Why are you angry with you? It's just. Luo Xiaoxiang murmured, I just stole his position. You two finally reunited, and he must be unhappy if I take your place again. I shouldn't be unhappy. I'm sure I'm reluctant. Zhao Qiwei answered without waiting for Chu Xia's answer, you can think about it. After the two get married, they will either be busy with this or that. My brother-in-law cares about Xia so much, so of course he wants to do more. With early summer. But the situation that we occupy Chuxia today is special, and my brother-in-law will definitely understand, and I feel that if a person like him is really unwilling, he will definitely say it directly, so he will not endure it. Sister, you are really knowledgeable. Chu Xia looked at Zhao Qiwei with a smile. Just in time, he asked me to ask you something, so I will bring it up now. Sister, what is your impression of Lu Lianbao? Lu Lianbao, after a moment of confusion, Zhao Qiwei understood who Lu Lianbao Chu Xia was talking about. You are talking about Battalion Commander Lu. He is a very nice person and very enthusiastic. I don't know the rest. Sister, please stop pretending to be confused. Chu Xia shook her head helplessly. I asked, Sister, do you know the reason why I asked? Just tell me directly, do you like Lu Lianbao's model? Do you have any idea? Possibility. I also opened the skylight and told the truth. Commander Lu really took a fancy to you, but he had also taken a fancy to Zhong Hongying before, but later he separated from Zhong Hongying after he realized Zhong Hongying's true face. Is this the officer that Zhong Hongying likes? Zhao Qiwei looked surprised. It's really embarrassing. Do you know what Zhong Hongying's mother said to the outside world? She said that Lu Lianbao had a pockmarked face, but he fell in love with Zhong Hongying. At the beginning, Zhong Hongying agreed to him because he had just joined the army and was afraid that this would affect his future. Later, she really didn't like it and broke up with him. As a result, he retaliated and Zhong Hongying was even imprisoned. Although she knew that Zhong Hongying's mother was a little unreasonable in her remarks, the commune did receive a punishment for Zhong Hongying. We were really a little skeptical about the notice. Now that I see the real person, I can only say, Zhong Hongying's mother is so good at making things up, how can she have any pockmarks on her face? If such a person takes a fancy to Zhong Hongying should be eager to do so, right? Sister, you've been talking for a long time, but you haven't answered me yet. Chu Xia looked at Zhao Qiwei speechlessly. What I want to hear most now is your answer. The answer? Zhao Qiwei smiled bitterly. What do you want me to say? This person's feelings are not like a faucet. He can turn the switch to death at will. Speaking of which, I originally had a good impression of Zhang Wenyuan, otherwise I won't go to him to help me review. Later, between the article and the article, it was because he appeared in time to comfort me. During that time, I really wanted to find someone who could understand me to talk to. Suchin was not around, so I had other good friends who could talk to me from the bottom of my heart. Not really, he kind of saved me. But later on, the attitude of his family really hurt me. But after learning that he failed the exam, I felt some sympathy for him again. I also felt that if it weren't for me, he wouldn't have fallen ill or performed abnormally. So I made an agreement with him. Of course I have to abide by what I say, so now I will definitely not consider emotional matters. I have already thought about it. I will study hard first and wait for him to pass the exam to try it out for a while. If we are suitable, we will be together. If not, forget it. Chu Xia and Luo Xiaoxian looked at her with dark eyes, but they still didn't mention Lu Lianbao. Feeling uncomfortable being looked at by the two of them, Zhao Qiwei coughed lightly and said, forget it, you are not outsiders, so I'll just tell you. Of course I felt what Battalion Commander Lu has been thinking about me these past 2 days. I have an instinctive love and respect for soldiers. If I hadn't experienced so many things, I would definitely agree, but now, I can't do that. Luo Xiaoxian still looked confused, but Chu Xia understood. Zhao Qiwi also has a good impression of Lu Lianbao. However, because of her commitment to the article, she could not develop a relationship with Lu Lianbao. I understand. Chu Xia looked at Zhao Qiwi seriously. I will tell Zhou Mikang what you mean and ask him to talk to Lu Lianbao. If Battalion Commander Lu is willing to wait, what will you say? Zhao Qiwi nodded. Okay, then I know. Hey, hey, hey. Luo Xiaoxian hurriedly pulled the two of them. What are you talking about in mute words? Can you speak more clearly? Idiot, Chu Xia rolled her eyes. I've said it so clearly, how do you still understand it? I don't understand. Luo Xiaoxian still looked confused. From what I hear, it seems that Sister Qiwi doesn't reject Camp Lu, but because she agreed to the article, she can't consider it, but now she says Battalion Commander Lu is willing to wait. She slapped her forehead fiercely. I understand. What Sister Qiwi means is that this year will be reserved for the essay. When the essay is passed, Sister Qiwi can be with Camp Lu. If Commander Lu, if you believe Sister Qiwi, just wait for 1 year. However, it does not necessarily mean that we will be together absolutely. There is another possibility of continuing to choose the article. Therefore, waiting is risky. Whether you are willing to wait or not is up to Commander Lu to decide, right? I'm so worried. Chu Xia tugged at her hair randomly. Xiaoxian, I remember you are quite smart. Why are you talking so useless now? Could it be? She stared at the other person's belly. Got it? I hate it. Luo Xiaoxian pushed her with a red face. I'm not married yet, what do I have? Then why did you become so stupid? I just didn't turn the corner right away. Didn't you turn very fast before? And after following Director Su, you turned faster than before. Why are you turning so slowly today? I believe you so much that I'm too lazy to use my brain. Chu Xia smiled and joked, you are going to be a bride tomorrow. You are so excited that you have no brain space to think about anything else. Luo Xiaoxian. Can you please stop being such a bully? The other party is her sister-in-law. How can she be so careless as someone else? However, she doesn't seem to have much control over herself. Okay, you two don't need to make a fuss. In fact, I understand Xiaoxian's thoughts. She probably thought of it at first, but she didn't want to believe it. She thought I was being selfish by doing this. Just keep quiet, it doesn't seem to be a good idea, so I pretended to be stupid and asked. Zhao Qiwi looked at Luo Xiaoxian seriously. Sister-in-law, after we've been together for a long time, you know the word single piece, I really don't mean to bend around. That kind of person. Especially when I'm with my family, I'm absolutely clueless. Whatever I say is what I think in my heart. Moreover, even if you misunderstand what I mean and say it, I will never understand. Angry. Hee hee. Luo Xiaoxian smiled coquettishly, with an embarrassed look on her face. Chu Xia was speechless for a moment. I bet you, she is the stupidest one? However, if you think about it, it is understandable. One is a cousin and the other is a best friend, so she feels about the same about them. She doesn't have to worry about their anger affecting their relationship. Naturally, there is no such thing as careful testing. The aunt and sister-in-law must be careful. Chu Xia. Luo Xiaoxian shook Chu Xia's arm in a flattering manner. I promise you, it won't be like this in the future. Just now, I just didn't know how to position myself, and the more I talked, the more confused I became. Chu Xia rolled her eyes at her. Now I finally believe in a sentence. Those who can really deceive you may not be your enemies. People who are truly familiar with you are the most terrifying. Early summer. Snort. Zhao Qiwi quickly smoothed things over. You can't blame your sister-in-law for this. My sister-in-law is a very scary creature, and your sister-in-law is also forced to have no choice. It seems that I will have to use actions to prove to my sister-in-law that my sister-in-law is not scary. No, the look on Luo Xiaoqing's face deepened, but she didn't know what to say. She found that being a sister-in-law with her best friend's cousin was indeed a bit overwhelming. Chu Xia shook her head funny and picked up the phone. You two talk slowly, I'll ask Daodu how the preparations are. 11:52. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. First marriage then love, Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 980. After brewing for a long time, Zhao Yulan felt that there would be no problem this time. Zhao Yulan let out a long sigh of relief. Unfortunately, when Chu Xia came out of the bathroom and sat next to her with a flushed face, the words that came to her lips could not be said again. I remember when she got married, how could her mother teach her this? She wished she would not get married. Therefore, Zhao Yulan, who had no practical experience in this area, felt very regretful at this time. Why not learn from my mother first before coming in? But no matter how embarrassed you are, you still have to educate your daughter about this kind of thing. This is a mother's responsibility. Thinking of this, Zhao Yulan said in a clear voice, Xia, being someone's daughter-in-law is more than just words. Chu Xia nodded, yes. That's it? Coming from the early summer of the 21st century, even if I have no experience in this area, with so much information available, how can I not eat pork and not see pigs running away? He couldn't bear to continue to embarrass Zhao Yulan, so he said, Mom, there's no need to say anything, I know what you want to say. You know, Zhao Yulan's eyes widened instantly, how do you know? As she said this, her face turned redder. Well, when Xiaoqing's sister got married, didn't Xiaoqing and I stay at her house to sleep at night? In the middle of the night, when Xiaoqing's aunt and Xiaoqing's sister were talking, we heard it. Zhao Yulan secretly breathed a sigh of relief. She replied that her daughter saw her being intimate with Lin Baohe, go to bed early. After talking about such a topic, she didn't know how to face her daughter, so she had to use this method to cover up her discomfort. Seeing that Zhao Yulan no longer asked questions, Chu Xia also breathed a sigh of relief. When cousin Xiaoqing got married, she and Luo Xiaoqing did stay overnight, but they only heard about teachings. She was definitely making this up. She had no choice but to find a reason. How could her mother sleep? After a night of silence, at 5:30 in the morning, Chu Xia was dragged out of the warm bed by Zhao Yulan. Although there was no need to put on makeup in this era, grooming was indispensable. The facial features are very delicate, the eyebrows are not messy, and the complexion is also well maintained. After looking at it for a long time, Zhao Yulan couldn't find the place to start. I saw my wife holding a set of tools in her hand. After being stunned for a long time, Chu Xia cooperated and came to the rescue. Mom, I'll wash my face, and you can comb my hair for me. Zhao Yulan, what's so easy about combing those short cabbage hair? A family like the Zhou family, in order not to be criticized. The bride cannot be allowed to wear a wedding dress. Therefore, even though they were getting married, Chu Xia just changed into a new and more fashionable military uniform. Otherwise, nothing has changed. Looking at her pretty and tender self in the mirror, Chu Xia secretly regretted it and waited for permission in the future. She must take another set of wedding photos. Looking back, she saw Zhao Yulan looking at her proudly. Chu Xia couldn't help but smile. Mom, are you fascinated by me? My daughter is the prettiest in the world. Mom. Chu Xia hugged her. If there is a next life, I will still be my mother's daughter. Chu Xia said this. Zhao Yulan's nose became sour and tears came down. Silly child, of course you will be your mother's daughter. No matter how many lives you live, you will be your mother's daughter. Dong dong dong. Zhao Yulan quickly wiped her tears and said softly, "Go and open the door." The door opened and Luo Xiaoxian poked her head in, followed by Luan Xiaoxiang. They slept in the same room last night. Looking Chu Xia up and down, Luo Xiaoxian clicked her tongue, "The bride is different. She is not dressed up, but she looks happy." Trying to hold back the panic in her heart, Chu Xiaofei rolled her eyes at her, "You are the bridesmaid today, but you must protect me well and don't hurt me like others." "Don't worry, sister will definitely protect you very well." Luo Xiaoxian glanced at the time and narrowed her eyes happily, "The bride is coming soon. Close the door and we will not let you in without the red envelope." "You kid, why are you so anxious?" The fat aunt came in, pulled her daughter aside, looked at Chu Xia, and nodded with satisfaction, "Good looking. She looks like a bride." Luo Xiaoxian couldn't help but curl her lips, "It's because our family has grown so well in early summer, but we haven't dressed up and haven't put on flowers yet. How can we look like a bride?" After a while, the whole family came over in a noisy manner, surrounding Chu Xia and exhorting each other. In fact, Chu Xia didn't hear anything clearly. At this moment, she looked at the calm look on her face, and felt in her heart, already panicked into a group. "Get married. This is a wedding. Can you not panic?" Looking at the time, Ms. Zhao waved her hands like shooing away flies, "Everyone, go out. I'll have a few words with Chu Xia." Li Aiwan smiled and pulled Zhao Yulan out, "My mother has been tossing and turning all night, and if she doesn't let her say what's in her heart, she won't have to sleep tonight." When only the grandfather and grandson were left in the room, Ms. Zhao's rough hand touched her granddaughter's cheek, "Xia, grandma actually has nothing to say to you, she just wants to spend more time with Xia." "Grandma." Chu Xia burst into tears all of a sudden. "You have been weak since you were a child. You are what grandma cares about the most. Now that you have found such a good husband, grandma is happy," the old lady said as she took out her handkerchief to wipe away Chu Xia's tears. "Don't cry. We want to be the most beautiful bride. Grandma, I will go back to see you and grandpa during my holidays." "Well, take your son-in-law with you." "Okay, take him with you and let him buy delicious food for grandma." "Well, let him buy delicious food for grandma." At 7 o'clock, the car picking up the bride arrived at the door. Zhou Mikang, dressed in a brand new military uniform, was handsome and upright, making all the elders feel elated. Snort. "Who dares to say that our family married an old man in early summer, so good looking and young? Those people can just spread the rumors, and when Chu Xia goes back with her son-in-law, their eyes will be smashed out." "Dad, Mom, I'm here," Zhou Mikang greeted Lin Baohe and Zhao Yulan first, and then turned to the other elders to greet them one by one. Zhou Mikang's cousin Zhou Huikang, who was the best man, had never seen such an image of his cousin, and he forgot about it for a moment. What was he doing here? He stood there with his mouth half open, stunned. Seeing his appearance, Zhou Hanliang came to him with a funny look on his face and whispered in his ear, "Comrade best man, pay attention to your appearance." Zhou Huikang quickly stood up straight and greeted his uncles, aunts, and grandparents one by one. With Mr. Zhao and Ms. Zhao keeping watch, after Zhou Mixang sent out the red envelope, Luo Xiaoxian and Luan Xiaoxiang had no choice but to open the door and let them go. Finally, this moment has arrived. Chu Xia, who was standing by the bed, clenched her hands unconsciously and her mind was pounding. She could no longer think at all and felt as if her heart was about to jump out of her throat. To be continued. Chapter 197 Welcoming the Bride. Chapter 197 Welcome *. First marriage then love, Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 981. As soon as the update arrived, I finally kept my promise and coded it out. Can you use dual guns? Suddenly, Chu Xia was excited. Could it be that Grandma Zhang was the legendary old woman with 2 guns? When she was little, her grandparents told her stories about this character when they put her to sleep. To be precise, there were 4 characters with this name. Could it be possible that she had seen one of the prototypes? By elimination, Zhao Hongwen from the north and Deng Huizhong from the south were all out of the question. Lu Longhua and Chen Lianqi's ages had never been mentioned by their grandparents. Fortunately, she remembered their names. "What's Mrs. Jiang's last name?" Chu Xia asked. Yu Tao asked softly in her ear. "Last name?" Yu Tao thought hard for a while and smiled sheepishly. "My memory has deteriorated so much recently that I really can't remember it." Chu Xia turned her attention to Zhang Shan, who was following her quietly. "Third sister-in-law, what's wrong?" Zhang Shan was a little frightened by her look, and she shrank her neck unconsciously. A certain Xia realized that her expression might be a little too urgent, so she quickly adjusted it and asked in a low voice, "What's your surname?" "Last name, I don't know. In early summer, I have a black line on my head. I don't know what my surname is. By the way, what this great-granddaughter did was too unqualified. She didn't even know her great-grandmother's surname." She was really speechless. Seeing the astonishment on Chu Xia's expression, Zhang Shan quickly explained, "Grandpa is gone. No one in the family calls Grandma by her first and last name. Have you never been with my great-grandmother's relatives?" "Yes, I have." Chu Xia really didn't know what to say at this moment. Is there anyone so stupid? Isn't that the old lady's maiden name? Zhang Shan suddenly patted her head. "My uncle's surname is Lin, so my great-grandmother should also be surnamed Lin. If her surname is neither Lu nor Chen, then she is not a legendary figure, but she has no regrets at all. She has the same surname as her. He knows how to use dual guns, that's awesome." If old Mrs. Yang hears Chu Xia's thoughts at this time, she will definitely stagger, angry. Is it possible to use 2 guns accurately and accurately? It's so insulting to her, isn't it? The old lady appeared in the hall, and people gathered in small groups to reminisce about old times quickly gathered around. "Aunt Zhang. I wish you good health and long life. Grandma Zhang, happy birthday. Grandma Zhang, there is a present day every year. Grandma Zhang. Aunt Zhang." After greeting the inquiring people one by one, the old lady sat down and chatted with everyone. At the age of over 90, her thinking was clear and her enunciation was precise. Chu Xia was envious on the other side. Wouldn't it be nice if she could be this awesome when she gets older? Suddenly noticing that her mother-in-law's face darkened, Chu Xia was a little puzzled. She followed her line of sight and saw Qin Xiangji. By the way, she remembered that her father-in-law said that he wanted to help her mother-in-law vent her anger. Did she vent her anger? Judging from her mother-in-law's current expression, it was most likely that her father-in-law hadn't completed the task yet. She unconsciously moved towards her mother-in-law. Well, she didn't know why she moved. Anyway, she just felt that she could be closer to her mother-in-law. It's a clear support. Noticing her little movements, Lin Yangkai's expression relaxed a little. He smiled and patted her little hand gently without saying a word. Although Yu Tao didn't know what happened between her mother-in-law and Qin Xiangji, the year she married into the Zhou family, she accompanied her mother-in-law to buy New Year goods and met Qin Xiangji. At that time, the other party and her mother-in-law were also unhappy. At this time, although she didn't lean towards her mother-in-law, but she looked at Qin Xiangji more defensively. Lin Chuxia. Hearing the call, Chu Xia turned around and saw that it was Yang Xiaoli who was standing behind her, grinning at her, her eyes full of joy. Chu Xia quickly stood up and greeted the other party. "Yang Xiaoli, when did you come?" "I came down at that time, why didn't I see you?" "My dad's driver sent us here and had to finish my dad's business first, so we were late. Yang Xiaoli pointed to a middle-aged woman in her 40s in the distance. That's my mom. I came with her. Originally, I didn't want to come, but I thought I might meet you, so I came. Is everyone doing well? Is there anything going on recently? Chu Xia asked after not seeing each other for a few days and missing Luo Xiaoxian, Lu Meijun, and others. Yang Xiaoli smiled playfully, except it's not good that you're not here, everything else is fine. Chu Xia also laughed, and she found that after truly becoming friends, Yang Xiaoli was not an annoying girl. Lin Mengran, Yang Xiaoli asked Chu Xia and pointed to the door. Look, that's Lin Mengran, right? Yes, this guy is here too. Chu Xia smiled and shook her head. This world isn't that big. Let's take a closer look. Do we all have a vine-like relationship? Lin Mengran, an old lady in her 60s and a middle-aged woman in her 40s came forward and respectfully saluted and greeted old Mrs. Zhang. When Mrs. Zhang touched Lin Mengran's head and praised her, Chu Xia finally understood the relationship between them. It turned out that the Lin family to which Lin Mengran belonged was Mrs. Zhang's natal family. No wonder Mrs. Zhang is in such good health. She comes from a martial arts family, how can she be in poor health? Lin Chuxia, Yang Xiaoli, hello. After her grandmother and mother joined the hot chat group, Lin Mengran got close to Chuxia and Yang Xiaoli. Yang Xiaoli smiled and poked her finger. Hey, you hit it deep enough. At the beginning, you pretended to be a poor person. Later, didn't I say that my family has practiced martial arts for generations? Besides, if I introduce myself as a member of the Lu Xilin family when I meet someone, don't you think I am showing off? You think you're not showing off enough? There are bodyguards following you wherever you go, and everyone you meet feels like they owe you a debt. Yang Xiaoli curled her lips. Let me tell you, you were the one I disliked the most in the beginning because you were too pretentious. Both each other. Lin Mengran punched her respectfully. You have 2 bodyguards wherever you go, and they support you like a princess. You do whatever you say. Everyone looks down upon you when you see them. I'm also annoying. Am I like that? Yang Xiaoli looked at Chu Xia. I don't believe what she said. Chu Xia, tell me, am I like that? Absolutely, Chu Xia said while shrinking her shoulders. Anyway, you two are quite arrogant. I can only hide in the corner and stay as far away from you as possible. It's not safe to get close. Yang Xiaoli pushed her. You bad guy, are you laughing at us? Lin Mengran looked Chu Xia up and down. Which family are you from? Have you been pretending to be brave? I'm not pretending. Chu Xia curled her lips. I am who I am, and I have never pretended. Then why did you come to my great aunt's birthday? It's impossible for someone to come here without any ideas and background. You can't deceive me. Hurry up and recruit the real people. I am married. Lin Mengran interrupted her. I know, I want to get down to business. Chu Xia had a dark line. Isn't getting married a serious matter? It's business, but what I want to hear now is your background. Lin Mengran suddenly paused and suddenly asked, you mean your husband's family has a strong background? It was very uncomfortable in early summer. They were sitting only 1 meter away from their mother-in-law and others. Okay. Sister, can you speak louder? Following Chu Xia's gaze, Lin Mengran slapped her forehead fiercely. I know who you are marrying. No. No, 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 right. Yang Xiaoli nodded. Yes. Really? Lin Mengran's eyes widened twice as wide as he looked up and down at Chu Xia. What's your husband's surname? Sister, is there something wrong with your mind? Chu Xia had a black line on her face, and she no longer knew how to describe Miss Lin. I just want to make sure again. I know that the eldest sister of my great aunt's family married into the Zhou family. If you looked over there just now, I guess she married into her family, right? Chu Xia curled her lips to show contempt. I didn't expect it, I really didn't expect it. Linmen Gran repeated it over and over again, the words disbelief clearly written on her face. What do you mean? Yang Xiaoli punched her, what do you mean you didn't expect it? Make it clear. Well. Linmen Gran looked around and lowered his voice, our family has no contact with the Zhou family, but they are relatives of my great-aunt's family, so regarding the Zhou family, I've heard of it more or less. The group leader seemed to be particularly picky in this regard. 7 aunts and 8 aunts from various families, as well as classmates and friends, introduced to him as many as 800 girls, but he didn't look at any of them and rejected them directly. Everyone was guessing whether he didn't like girls at all. Unexpectedly, he got married suddenly. Unexpectedly, the person he married turned out to be someone I knew. Tisk tisk, it's incredible. You mean I'm not worthy of him, right? Chu Xia squinted at her, besides my background, what else am I not worthy of? No, no, that's not what I meant. What I meant was, I don't know what he wants to pick. That doesn't mean I'm not worthy of him. No, Linmen Gran was about to cry. She really didn't know how to explain it. It's not what it's not, it's nothing. Auntie, why don't you do this? Linmen Gran repeatedly threw her hands at Chu Xia, I was wrong, it's all my fault. It's not that you are not worthy of Captain Zhou, it's that Captain Zhou is not worthy of you. That's pretty much it. Chu Xia raised her eyebrows and smoothed her hair, if such a pink flower was inserted into his old cow dung, of course he made a profit. Linmen Gran stared at her dumbfounded, gave a thumbs up for a while, and then scrolled down, if you have the courage, please speak louder, and then I will convince you. Chu Xia refused without any psychological burden, you don't have the courage, how can you say it out loud if you are joking in private? Linmen Gran stared at her speechlessly, you are such a rogue. Someone said naturally, did you just find out? Linmen Gran, ours. First marriage then love, Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 982. Popular recommendations. 1 update. The wind in June felt warm on my face, but I didn't feel hot at all. It was such a wonderful feeling to hold Ying'er's little hand and walk in the fields in early summer. In that time and space, she grew up in the city, but she and her family had been to rural resorts several times, but they were all artificially modified places, which were fundamentally different from this kind of pure natural primitive ecological village. Moreover, there is no pollution at all in this era, and even chemical fertilizers are rarely used. It is really pure green, and there is no smell of chemicals in the nose. The fragrance of flowers, grass, and earth are mixed together, and the waves of wheat are slightly yellow, dancing with the wind, which makes people feel so comfortable, not to mention it. Taking a deep breath and exhaling it exaggeratedly, Chu Xia felt as if her whole body was so ethereal that she wanted to float. When she came to this era, although she lived in the countryside, she was poor and miserable at that time. She didn't even have enough to eat, and she had a bunch of top-notch relatives. She was not in the mood to appreciate the original ecological scenery of this era. At this moment, only then can we truly experience this kind of happiness. Thinking about the reinforced concrete in later generations, this is really a paradise-like place. Little ant, what are you thinking about? Ying'er looked up at Chu Xia and asked with a smile. I didn't think about anything. I just thought it was so beautiful here and I was in a very good mood. Chu Xia turned to look at the little girl, there will be a competition in 4 days. Are you nervous? Yeah, the little girl nodded. Originally, the teacher didn't allow us to take a break today, but for some reason, we were allowed to take a break again. But let's go home and don't forget to practice. Auntie, I'll just play this little one later, after lunch, I will start practicing and make sure not to be lazy. It seems that the little girl misunderstood what she just asked. Chu Xia smiled and said, how could I think you are lazy? Besides, only by combining work and rest can you get good results. If you were asked to practice on the questions every day, I guess by the end you would be sitting there, your mind would have become mush, and you would be very upset if you made a mistake, but in the end, you would find that the more you practice, the worse it gets. Little ant, how do you know? The little girl looked at Chusia in surprise. It's really like what my little ant said. Every time, the results get worse towards the end. Sometimes when the teacher scolds me, the more I panicked, the more I thought about going faster, the slower I got, and the more I thought about not making mistakes, the more I always made mistakes. Yesterday, Teacher Tian was so angry that I cried. Then what did you do in the end? Chusia asked. I coaxed Teacher Tian and said that I would work harder when I got home so that she wouldn't be embarrassed. Teacher Tian said that she thought I was the most promising and told me not to lose. But the little girl glanced in the direction where Zhou Huikang was staying, and lowered her voice and said, Teacher Tian also said that I must ask Uncle Seven to accompany me when the time comes. In that case, I will definitely get good results. Seventh uncle equals good grades. Chusia was really speechless. It seemed that this teacher Tian Tian was really fond of Zhou Huikang, otherwise she wouldn't have said such words. Isn't she worried that the children would tell their elders the original words? Little ant, I think what the teacher said is not right. What do you think? Ah, after being stunned for a moment, Chusia burst into laughter. What would the teacher feel like if he knew that he couldn't even deceive a child? Yinger and I feel the same way. It's not certain whether Uncle Seven will go then. However, is Yinger worried that Uncle Seven won't go? I'm not worried. Yinger shook her head and nodded nervously. I'm a little worried. What do you mean you're worried but not worried? I think my grades will be the same whether my uncle is here or not, but I'm worried that if my uncle doesn't go, Teacher Tian Tian won't like me. She has warned me several times. The little girl looked confused. Looking at Chusia, little ant, do you think I should force Uncle Seven to go with us? You can ask him if he wants to go. Anyway, there will definitely be more than 2 of us going that day. If Uncle Seven doesn't want to go, let Uncle Wenbin or Uncle Zhe go with him. You can choose one. Then I'll choose Uncle Wenbin. The little girl blinked and looked at Chusia seriously. Little ant, it's not that I don't like Uncle Zhe, it's mainly because Uncle Zhe doesn't like to laugh very much, so I'm a little afraid of him. Okay, let Uncle Wenbin go with us. Chusia smiled and held her hand. Let's go find Uncle Wenbin now and see if he has time on that day. Good. The older one and the younger one held hands and found Lin Wenbin, who was lying in confusion under the tree. Brother, Yinger likes you. Chusia smiled and poked him. I'm not afraid of bugs flying into my mouth, so I dare to sleep here. I drove out the documents overnight because I was late with you today. Do you think I'm sleepy? Lin Wenbin sat up and pointed to the straw mat opposite that was illuminated by the sun. Sit down and talk. Brother, you are the best to me. Chusia looked at Lin Wenbin with a moved face. Although he was a cousin whom he had only met halfway through, the other party really had nothing to say to him. Even his own brother would never be able to do this. That is, you are my sister. If I am not good to you, who will be good to you? Lin Wenbin looked at her with a smile. I have good news for you, your spiritual aunt is also going to be a mother-in-law. Really? Chusia looked at her with wide eyes. Huangsu has a girlfriend? Where is she from? How old is she? What does she do? Is she good looking? Does Ants Hilling like her? Listening to your string of questions, Lin Wenbin shook his head in amusement. Can you tell me, are you doing this because of concern or because of gossip? Of course I have them all, Chusia said matter-of-factly. That girl is also from Beijing. She is a classmate of Huangsu. She seems to be about the same age as you. She looks okay. I haven't seen her. Anyway, that's what my sister-in-law said. I'm not very satisfied with what she said. But Huangsu is satisfied, and I heard that he is already planning to get married. This shouldn't be good news for my little sister, right? Chusia sighed with emotion. Sure enough, it's up to the mother to grow up. You can only stare if you like it or not. Lin Wenbin laughed and teased her. It's okay. It's still early for the two in your belly to grow up. You don't have to worry about it for a while. Little ant. Ying'er reminded Chusia anxiously. Chusia smiled and touched her head, then looked at Lin Wenbin. Brother, I have something to discuss with you. Next week, Ying'er is going to participate in an arithmetic competition. Do you have time to accompany us, or 11:52? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. First Marriage Then Love, Mr. Mayor Please Be Kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 983. Popular Recommendations. Second update. I'm really not sure about next Friday, but I will try my best. Lin Wenbin smiled and rubbed Ying'er's head. The little girl is quite smart. Tell your uncle what you want, and wait until you finish the game. Uncle bought it for you. I don't lack anything now. After a moment of hesitation, the little girl looked at Lin Wenbin slightly uneasily. Uncle, can I use this reward on others? Lin Wenbin nodded. Of course. I want a pair of reading glasses, not the kind with big and heavy lenses. The little girl gestured hard, the kind with very thin edges and the lenses are only as big as the horizontal circles of an egg. Okay. Lin Wenbin looked at her doubtfully. Who is Ying'er planning to give the reading glasses to? Give it to my grandma. The little girl replied while secretly glancing at Chusia. Seeing that she didn't look unhappy, she continued, the last time grandma came to see me, she hit a tree and her forehead was raised. There's a bag. Why don't you tell grandpa? Chusia looked at her seriously. Ying'er, it's been a long time since you came home. Everyone loves you and doesn't hate your grandma. When something like this happens, you can tell it directly. Grandma didn't let me say it. She sighed like a little adult, and looked at Chusia pitifully. Little ant, I told grandma that my family is very kind to me, but grandma still doesn't let me say it. I don't want grandma to worry. Grandma went to school to see you, right? Yeah. The little girl looked uneasy. Little ant, I didn't mean not to say it, it was my grandma who didn't let me say it. She said that if I told her, she would never visit me again. Then have you thought about how to give her glasses? No. The little girl lowered her head, but I don't want her to break her head again. Ying'er is a filial child, and this is worthy of praise. But in the future, Ying'er will get older and have to learn to have her own ideas. Grandma won't let Ying'er talk because she doesn't understand our family. You can explain it to her, right? Ying'er looked at Chusia with a bitter look on her face. Little ant, I told grandma, but she didn't believe what I said. She said that I was just a child and didn't understand, so she asked me to just listen to her. She also said that if I didn't listen to her, she would never come to see me again. I'm sorry for this old lady's trick. No matter what, she threatens not to come to visit. Indeed, she does it for her granddaughter's good. However, if this misunderstanding lasts for a long time, it will definitely affect the relationship between Ying'er and the Zhou family. Does Ying'er think what grandma said makes sense? Chusia asked in a persuasive way. The little girl looked at Chusia pitifully. I don't know. Sure enough, she guessed correctly. When the child said this, it meant that the child had believed some of Lu Yui's words. After thinking about it for a while, Chusia guessed exactly. She took the little girl's shoulder and looked directly at her. Did grandma tell you that as the Zhou family has more and more babies, no one will love you as much as they do now? Well, the little girl looked at Chusia with a guilty look on her face. Little ant, I still like my little brother and sister very much, but... She bit her lip. But when I was at grandma's house before, it was because of if I lose my little brothers and sisters, no one will care about me anymore. Don't worry, no matter how many little brothers and sisters there are in the Joe family, everyone will still love Ying-er as before. My aunt promises you that she will never lie. Really? The little girl's eyes lit up. Little aunt, can we have a hookup? Certainly. After hooking up her fingers, one big and one small, and pulling her away solemnly, the smile on the little girl's face brightened again. This showed that Lu Yui's words during this period had a great impact on the child. Chu Xia can completely understand the child's little thoughts. A female classmate of hers once told her that she was scared when her younger brother was born, because when her mother was pregnant, many people teased her and said that from now on, everyone would only like her younger brother and not her. At that time, her female classmate even thought about how to take the little brother out of her mother's belly, and secretly reached out to dig at her mother's belly at night. Fortunately, the child was weak and the adults were asleep and alert, so no serious consequences occurred. Later, after the younger brother was born, the focus of the elders naturally shifted to the younger children. The female classmate said that what she was looking forward to most at that time was for her younger brother to disappear from this world. At that time, the female classmate was only 6 years old. It wasn't until she was 10 years old that she was always clinging to her younger brother, and he actually kissed her, and she gradually began to like her younger brother. This is still with his biological parents, and he only has one younger brother. Ying-er originally had a sensitive personality, but now she was living with Zhou Shanping and his wife, but Wang Lei was pregnant again. It would be strange if she wasn't worried. Speaking of which, Lu Yui is also a bit selfish. She should know how insecure such a big child is. Fortunately, Ying-er's personality has changed drastically due to everyone's influence. If it is the same as before, she might do something to Wang Lei, then this is really going to be a big mistake. It seems that Mrs. Zhou should be informed about this matter and talk to Lu Yui, otherwise, if she always educates Ying-er like this in the future, something will happen sooner or later. When I got home in the evening, Chu Xia told Mrs. Zhou about this. The old lady was silent for a long time, sighed heavily, and patted Chu Xia on the shoulder. Xia, it's really rare for you to think about things so thoroughly at your age. Ying-er's age now is the time to shape her character. This child has lived with Lu Yui since she was a child, so she is naturally more close to her. If she is always told like this, she will inevitably go astray in the future. Grandma can also understand Lu Yui's thoughts. She hopes that Ying-er will grow up to be a well-rounded child, but she cannot always stay by Ying-er's side. Such a one-sided education will definitely run counter to her ideas. Don't worry, take a free day. Grandma and your third uncle will go to Grandma Ying-er's house together. Speaking of which, Lu Yui is also having a hard time now, and she is not a bad person. If you can help her, help her. A handful, this can also make the grudge in Yes heart smaller. Chu Xia scratched her head in confusion. Grandma, why do I feel like I'm suing and being a villain? What nonsense are you talking about? Old Mrs. Zhou glared at her with dissatisfaction. You are doing this for the sake of the harmony of our entire family. How can you say you are suing and being a villain? He he. Chu Xia smiled proudly. Grandma, you have fallen into my trap. I am teasing you, but you actually take it seriously, ha ha ha. Mrs. Zhou. In a blink of an eye, it was the day when Luo Xiaoxian came back to San. Everyone got up early in the morning and waited eagerly. Because they had followed the rules of their hometown these days, early summer had not passed. Naturally, the mood of anticipation was the same as everyone else. Of course, the person who was looking forward to it the most was the fat aunt. She didn't eat much for breakfast. She sat in the living room, stretching her neck and looking out from time to time. She saw Grandma Dagong smiling all the time, saying that she gonna turn into a long-necked donkey. Aunt, just laugh at me. The fat ant smiled helplessly. You can describe me in a nicer way. The neck of a goose is also quite long. Why do you insist on describing me as a donkey? Grandpa Dogong chuckled and answered, it's already good that she didn't describe you as a mule, so just be satisfied. Fat ant. Luo Gangshun looked at his wife funny. It's not that you don't know the temperament of your in-laws, and it's not that you don't know the temperament of Qi Liang. Why are you so anxious? I tell you, if you marry Mei, you can only live a better life than before. It will definitely not be worse than before. Of course I know this truth, but knowing is one thing, and how to do it is another. The fat ant glared at her husband. Don't make trouble. Amid everyone's expectations, Luo Xiaoxian and Zhao Qiliang entered the door happily. The first time she saw her daughter, the little uneasiness in the fat ant's heart disappeared. Indeed, she has always known who her daughters-in-laws are, but after all, no one has ever touched a spoon in a pot, and her daughter has such a straight temper. In fact, even though she thinks so, she herself feels funny. Even if it is true, it's impossible to have conflicts right after getting married. What on earth does she want to do with her brain? Now that she saw her daughter's happy face, she felt that her previous behavior was even more ridiculous. Mom, after putting down her things and greeting all the elders, Luo Xiaoxian threw herself into the fat ant's arms, patting her back repeatedly. Mom, I miss you. Don't say nice things, the smile on your face is about to fall off. I still miss my mother, can you take care of me? The fat ant said this, but she took her daughter's face with her hand and looked at her carefully. Mom. Luo Xiaoxian felt uncomfortable seeing her, so she turned away with a blushing face. It's not been a long time since we last met, why are you doing this? You're so embarrassed. I am your mother, what are you embarrassed about? The fat ant looked at her daughter speechlessly. You and your mother are far away from each other just after you get married? How can you pay it forward in the future? Mom, Xiaoxian has been talking about you a lot these past 2 days. Zhao Qiliang hurriedly stepped forward to help his wife. If it weren't for the rules, I would have come over to see you. After dinner last night, she went to bed and lay down, saying she wanted to go to bed early and get up early, but until early in the morning, she was still there flipping pancakes and getting up before 5 o'clock in the morning. My mother was afraid, is there something I did wrong that made her angry? She took me aside and asked me secretly. Hee. Luo Xiaoxian smiled coquettishly. Mom, Qi Liang and his family are very good to me, but knowing that my parents are here, I am especially eager to see you. Brother is also bad, and we are in the same yard. I live there and don't come to see me, it's so annoying. R1152. First marriage then love, Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 984. 3 updates. You kid, you've been really unreasonable for a while. If your brother comes to see you, won't he break the rules? The fat ant reached out and poked her daughter on the forehead. You are already someone's wife, and you are still so ignorant. Fortunately Qi Liang has a good temper, and your father-in-law and mother-in-law are also open-minded, otherwise, how unhappy would people be if you just mess around like this? Hee. Luo Xiaoxian smiled sheepishly. Qi Liang and my father-in-law and mother-in-law both understand that I am not unhappy living with them, I just look forward to the whole family being together. When we were walking here today, my parents-in-law said that when we go back tonight, we finally don't have to be so particular anymore, and they were also panicking. Actually, you don't have to be so particular. You didn't have to be particular when you got married in early summer. Why don't you still live a good life? Fat Ant said while glaring at Luo Gangshun. It's all you. You have a lot of problems. Hey. Luo Gangshun sighed. I don't want to either, but the old couple at home said such cruel words. What do you want me to do? If something happens to the old couple, then I feel very sorry. You are superstitious, the fat ant snorted and looked at Zhao Yulan. What kind of society is this? The old couple still talk so much. Maybe they were afraid that we wouldn't listen. They said before leaving, "Don't leave. You have to live a life of patronizing your daughter and forgetting about your whole family." Zhao Yulan just patted her comfortingly and couldn't say anything. After all, the old couple were Luo Gangshan's parents. It was hard for her to express her opinion as an outsider. According to the people of Dalan village, after a daughter gets married, she must not meet her mother's family before returning home, otherwise her mother's family will never be able to change her life. In fact, the origin of the saying is that the husband's family did not want the daughter-in-law who had just passed away to secretly send things to her parents' family, and they deliberately said this to seriously frighten the daughter-in-law. "No one would violate the rules in my hometown because my husband's family is close to me and they live together all year round. There is no need to run home early before returning home. But when I come here, I only have a few days off. No matter how fastidious they are, let alone them. There is really no need to hold a wedding when we return to our hometown." Previously, Zhao Yulan and Lin Baohe thought that there was no need for this. Once Luo Gangshan explained the reason, everyone had no choice but to act according to the rules. Although they all knew that this was superstition, if it came true, they would really feel guilty for the rest of their lives. After a while of greetings, everyone sat around and started chatting. After going out to relax, Xiaojing's condition was better than before. She took the initiative to make honey tea and brought it to a few girls, with a smile on her face. Luo Xiaoxian knew Xiaojing's situation when she lived here before. Now she asked Chu Xia in a low voice, "Have Xiaojing reconciled with that Zhang Jun? How is that possible? That's when you meet a lovely boy." "No, I just followed us out for a walk to relax, and I felt much better after I came back." Chu Xia sighed. "This is also someone who is easy to get into trouble, and it's not worth fighting for someone like that." Fortunately, her grandparents are kind-hearted, considerate of her emotions, and think about everything for her. If she wants to leave it to someone else's house, she will probably send it away after all this trouble. "That's right, the last time I splashed water on you, you must have been kicked out. Don't talk about me being so domineering." "Okay," Chu Xia pushed her angrily and changed the subject. "By the way, where have you been over the past 2 days? Has Battalion Commander Lu been there?" Of course Luo Xiaoxian immediately smiled and beamed. "It's not that there is a problem in the past, it's just that it passes day by day." Moreover, she took the initiative to confess her love in front of all of us. He also stated that he would wait for Sister Kiwi for a year, as Sister Kiwi said. Even if Sister Kiwi chooses someone else, he would not complain. He said that he was particularly grateful to Sister Kiwi for giving him this opportunity. Chu Xia looked in disbelief. "You just said it so bluntly? In front of my uncle and aunt?" "Yes. He said this in front of his father-in-law and mother-in-law, and he also specifically promised her father-in-law and mother-in-law that if she could be with Sister Kiwi in the future, she would treat her like a pain in the eyes and treat her father-in-law and mother-in-law as her biological parents. Now I finally understand why Zhong Hongying got close to Liu Yingzhang in such a short period of time. With Liu Yingzhang's character, I guess he also confessed to Zhong Hongying in the same way at that time." He. Luo Xiaoxian laughed. Sister Kiwi was even more outrageous and asked directly. He blushed at that time and said that at that time, he really regarded Zhong Hongying as a good girl who was kind and could endure hardships. Then Sister Kiwi asked him if he was really given a chance in the future, would he stay with her for a while? If she found out that the other person was not who she imagined, she would definitely give up. He shook his head and said absolutely not. He said that he was cautious this time and made this decision after many observations and confirmations. It was the result of particularly mature consideration. Pull it down, he has been sticking to Sister Kiwi's side since the first time we met. How to observe her from multiple aspects. Oh, that's right. Maybe he stuck to Sister Kiwi's side at that time just to observe Sister Kiwi. Chu Xia slapped her forehead fiercely. This battalion commander Lu is quite cunning. He looks so honest and has a lot of playfulness. You and Sister Kiwi are indeed sisters. She said so at the time. Luo Xiaoqing smiled to herself for a while and then said, I was too embarrassed to laugh in front of him. It almost choked me to death. Sister Kiwi said this. How did Battalion Commander Lu explain it? He said that his greatest advantage is that he is good at seizing opportunities. He will never be in a dilemma about moving forward or backward because he is afraid of other people's remarks. He said that he thought Sister Kiwi would misunderstand him like this, but he didn't mind. Saying that time is the best evidence. In early summer, have you noticed that when Lu Yingjiang deals with relationships, he is so inconsistent with his appearance? He is really dissatisfied with his behavior. However, it is quite romantic. Your brother would not say such things. We are both married, and he has never expressed his love to me in this way. Well, thinking about it, I feel like I'm at a huge loss. I was the one who took the initiative in the beginning, and I'm destined to be the passive one in this life. It's such a shame. Regretted, Chu Xia smiled evilly and stretched out her hand to greet Zhao Liang. Brother, come here. Luo Xiaoqing was so frightened that she kept tugging on her sleeves and murmured in a low voice, I was wrong, I was wrong. What's wrong? Zhao Liang came over and sat next to his wife. He glanced at his wife's expression and asked, why is your face so red? Do you have a fever? As he spoke, he reached out to touch Luo Xiaoqing's head. For a moment, he relaxed tone, but didn't ask any more questions. As soon as Chu Xia saw her cousin's expression, she knew that the other party had misunderstood that the two of them had whispered something forbidden to children. This kind of misunderstanding was really serious. But she couldn't explain anything, so she pinched Luo Xiaoqing quietly. The guy looked at her in confusion, as innocent as he wanted, but she had no choice but to kill her Taoist friend rather than the poor Taoist. We were just talking about Battalion Commander Liu's romance with Sister Chi Hui. Xiaoqing said that you have never been romantic with her. I want to call you to come and ask. It scared her like this. Brother, this means you haven't done enough. Otherwise, how could she be so frightened by just such a small thing, right? Brother, I have to work hard to be a qualified husband. Who is afraid? Luo Xiaoqing explained, I'm just embarrassed, so I'm not afraid. Don't accuse me unjustly and create conflicts between us as husband and wife. Early summer. Zhao Liang rubbed his wife's head dotingly, okay, I understand, but I may not be able to do it. Thinking about it from another perspective, up to now, I have only liked you, and then I married you. Battalion Commander Lu is quite romantic, but no matter who he ends up marrying, he is not the only one. Thinking about it, it's quite shocking, isn't it? Chu Xia looked at her old brother with a speechless face. This is the dead Taoist friend but not the poor Taoist. If Zhao Kiwi were here and heard what her brother said, would she still give Battalion Commander Lu a chance? After finishing speaking, Zhao Liang also felt that his behavior was not very above board, so he made up for it. Of course, this just represents the difference in personality and has nothing to do with character. I believe that Lu Yingchang has chosen the right goal and will definitely stick to it. Brother. Chu Xia's expression suddenly became serious. I suddenly thought of a question. We all have a good impression of Battalion Commander Lu, and we also feel that we can't blame him for what happened with Zhong Hongying. However, you are the one who knows him better when you are often with him, so what do you think of his character? If you are negative about him, is there no need to ask Sister Kiwi to give him a chance? When his sister said this, Zhao Liang's expression became serious. Lu Yingzhang's character is absolutely no problem. If he hadn't pushed me away at the right time during this mission, today's wedding would definitely not have been held. Moreover, he was because pushing me away is an extremely dangerous thing. If he was the kind of person who only cared about himself, he would never have done that kind of thing at that time. He is indeed a more proactive person when it comes to dealing with relationships between men and women. This has something to do with his own age. The elders in his family always urge him and ask him to go back to his hometown for a blind date, but he doesn't want to marry someone he doesn't know, so I want to find it myself. These were the only people he came into contact with in the army. If he didn't take the initiative, how could the opportunity come to him by himself? Therefore, his behavior is completely understandable. It seems that Battalion Commander Lu is really optimistic about Sister Kiwi. It's not easy for him to agree to wait for Sister Kiwi for a year despite his family's urging Chu Xia side, but became worried for Lu Lianbao. What if? A year later, his hope has come to nothing, which is a bit pitiful. She now regrets agreeing to Zhou Mikang to help use Zhao Kiwi to hang Lu Lianbao. Indeed, this can give him hope, but what if his hope comes to nothing? R1152. First Marriage Then Love, Mr. Mayor Please Be Kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 985. 4 updates. The worry in early summer infected Zhao Qiliang, and he frowned. He knew about the agreement between his sister and Lu Lianbao before, but he really didn't think much about it. Now that his cousin reminded him, he also found that this agreement seemed too unfair to Lu Lianbao. If my sister likes Lu Lianbao, she can give him a promise and let him wait for a year. But right now, it seems that is not the case. What he worried about was the same as Chu Xia's. If his sister rejected Lu Lianbao directly, he was worried that the other party would fall into the same state again. For the time being, the division will not send them out on missions, but who knows when they will be sent out again. Brother, let's not bother each other. I'm going too far. Although it's cruel to wait for a year, it seems to be more terrible to lose all hope. It's the lesser of two evils. I'll tell Sister Kiwi later. He said, I guess she will regret her previous decision when she thinks about it afterwards. That's all we can do. With a long sigh, Zhao Qiliang looked at the two sisters. You guys are chatting here, while I go to Brother Zhou and Brother Lin. Zhou Mikang has been very busy during this period, and he probably won't be back until noon. The people responsible for entertaining the groom are Zhou Zikang, Lin Wenbin, and Zhou Huikang. Wang Lei and Yu Tao were both more than 8 months pregnant and felt tired easily. After sitting for a while, they went back to their rooms to rest. Chu Xia and Luo Xiaoxian were able to sit in the corner and whisper. Glancing at the Zhou brothers chatting enthusiastically with Zhao Qiliang, and touching Liang Xiahong's slightly absent-minded face, Luo Xiaoxian asked in a low voice, Mei Xiaofeng doesn't plan to come back yet. If Zhou Zhonkong doesn't invite him in person, how can he come back? Chu Xia sighed, so it is really difficult to fundamentally change a person's character. After what happened last time, everyone thought Zhou Zhonkong had changed. Now it seems that. She shook her head and said no more. For such a willful man, anyone who lives with him will be punished. He just lives outside and pretends to be a bachelor. Yes. It's really disgusting. Luo Xiaoxian looked contemptuous. To be honest, I think Mei Xiaofeng can like him, but her taste is not very good. I won't marry such a person even if I kill him. Okay, don't stand and talk without hurting your back. Chu Xia rolled her eyes at her. If she had known that Zhou Zhonkong had such a temper. It's impossible to take a fancy to him. Don't forget. Some people have two faces before and after marriage. Moreover, when a woman is emotionally overwhelmed and cannot see clearly, she really cannot measure it with common sense. Otherwise, there would be no story about Qin Xianglian and Chen Shimei, right? Although theoretically the story we know is inconsistent with the facts, the fact that it is so popular means that it has reached the hearts of many people, right? It is indeed the second reincarnation of a woman when she gets married. Fortunately, We were all reincarnated into the right child. Luo Xiaoxiang said with emotion on her face. Suddenly he stretched his head forward and looked at Chu Xia mysteriously. How about I go see Daodu this afternoon? Chu Xia spread her hands. I don't have any objection. It's you. You said you missed Fat Aunt and Gang Shun Uncle before and couldn't sleep. Now you see them and want to run out. Aren't you going to smash your own eyes? As long as we meet her, my parents understand my thoughts. Now I just want to know how Daodu is getting along with the Zhou family. She has been worried about her relationship with Zhou Haining before. Zhou Haining has a good temper and has always been polite to her. What does she have to worry about? Chu Xia shook her head speechlessly. Don't think that my sister-in-law is so fierce as a tiger, okay? You don't know this, right? Zhou Haining gets along well with her. But that Li Yuxiang is Zhou Haining's friend, and they are getting married this time. Who knows whether they will join in the fun? Zhou Haining and Li Yuxiang are getting along again. That's right. Luo Xiaoxiang nodded. Last time I told Zhou Hanliang that I would not be influenced by Li Yuxiang and try to minimize contact with her, but after all, the two of them are friends who grew up playing together, and Li Yuxiang always he was deliberately trying to please him, and Zhou Haining was a soft-hearted person. As soon as they went back and forth, the two of them became on the same page again. When Zhou Hanliang brought Daodu home, Li Yuxiang was there. After all, Zhou Haining was not too young, and Zhou Hanliang could not always interfere with her right to make friends. Daodu didn't want Zhou Hanliang to be in trouble, and she didn't mention it, but when we talked with me before, she was worried that after marrying into the Zhou family, Li Yuxiang would still get involved. And I heard that the woman has a very good relationship with Zhou Hanliang's family. You said that there is nothing else to do. When it's time to eat, she ran to the table to join in the fun. Wouldn't it make Daodu half angry to death? Okay, let's go over and take a look after dinner. Chu Xia said while laughing, I guess Daodu is almost dead. On the day of the wedding, you complained that I stayed with you and ignored her. Now it's really going to hurt. I feel so wronged that I can definitely hold both of us and cry. When it was almost lunch, Zhou Mikang rushed back. He glanced at his little wife before saying hello to the others. Luo Xiaoxiang smacked her lips in envy. Master, you are such a good husband. Chu Xia glanced at her sideways. You mean my brother is not a good husband? That's not true, but there is no comparison with the teacher. In a situation like this, your brother must have said hello to everyone before coming to see me. Luo Xiaoxiang sighed. You know how much I look forward to it. Can he only have eyes for me? Early summer. Don't look like that. I don't mean that he only cares about me and doesn't care about others. What I mean is that he cares about me first and then cares about others. What I want is a sequence, which represents the importance of my position in his heart. Well, Luo Xiaoxiang said while nudging Chu Xia, I'm not jealous of you, don't accuse me unjustly. You're not jealous of me, you're jealous of all of us. The problem is, you don't think about my brother's character or Zhou Mikang's character. If my brother comes in one day and just ignores you and ignores others, it will definitely be you're about to give birth. Luo Xiaoxiang's face turned red. You can't say it so fast. Xiaoxiang, something's not right with you. Chu Xia looked her up and down, then glanced at her belly. You really don't already have it, do you? Who said that? Luo Xiaoxiang's eyes flickered, not daring to look at her. If it really happened, could I not tell you? No. Don't accuse me unjustly. No, your attitude was wrong when we talked about this issue before, and it's even more wrong today, Xiaoxiang. Chu Xia stretched her head in front of her and lowered her voice. As far as our relationship is concerned, you still have to use it. Are you hiding it from me? To be continued. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. First Marriage Then Love, Mr. Mayor Please Be Kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 986. Popular Recommendations. 1 Update. Who hid it from you? Luo Xiaoxian looked at Chu Xia with a red face. Mainly, I'm not sure. Chu Xia's eyes widened instantly. Originally, she was just teasing the other person, but seeing the other person's behavior, did she really get it right? Looking left and right, Chu Xia stretched her head forward and looked at her seriously. How long has it been? 7 days have passed. Biting her lip, Luo Xiaoxian's eyes turned red. Chu Xia, if it's true, but, what should I do? I'm almost scared to death these days. I asked you earlier and you still didn't admit it? Chu Xia looked at her speechlessly. Tell me I won't laugh at you, why are you hiding? After a slight hesitation, she still asked, you, is it because of this? Are you just anxious to get married? Luo Xiaoxian's face turned red. Just when she was about to speak, she saw Zhou Mikang approaching, so she quickly swallowed her words and smiled at him. Master is back. Congratulations, Zhou Mikang congratulated her and looked at his young wife. I didn't make trouble for you today, did I? Fortunately. Chu Xia said while pushing him. Xiaoxian and I have something to say. Don't get in the way here. Well, go talk to my brother and the others. Okay. Zhou Mixang stood up happily and went to Zhao Qiliang and Lin Wenbin. Chu Xia turned to Luo Xiaoxian and motioned for her to continue the topic. I don't want to marry your brother because of this. I want to marry him, so I used this method to let him understand my determination. Luo Xiaoxian bit her lip. Chu Xia, will you look down on me? Of course not. Chu Xia looked at her seriously. You are much better developed than my brother. You want to use this method to prove to my brother your determination to be with him. Speaking of which, my brother is really not a man enough. Since I accepted your promise, I should have given you a promise earlier, and in the end you had to take the initiative to propose it. It is really shameful. Biting her lip, Luo Xiaoxian raised her head and stared at Chu Xia. He was drunk by me that day, and he regretted it all the time afterwards. He was also waiting. If nothing happened, he still wanted to truly be in peace before marrying me. In fact, the reason I persuaded him was that I might have it. I said that I was afraid of embarrassment and would not allow him to tell anyone and would never go to the hospital for a checkup. When we get married, after a while, you can talk about it naturally. It is actually very easy to hide the difference of 1 month. The birth date is wrong, it can be said to be premature birth. Even though it was agreed upon, I was still worried, for fear that my secret would be exposed. Chu Xia, you must not tell anyone about this, okay? Hey. Chu Xia sighed heavily. She felt very sorry for Luo Xiaoxian's suffering during this period. She also knew that no matter whether the elders minded this matter or not, Luo Xiaoxian would feel embarrassed if she said it. However, if you keep it secret like this, what will you do if you have opinions? The first 3 months of pregnancy are very dangerous. Even if she changes her job, it will not be possible immediately. Then, she will have to trek to the countryside, which is extremely inappropriate for her current body. Seeing Chu Xia's hesitation, Luo Xiaoxian panicked. Chu Xia, please promise me, otherwise I will really regret telling you. Originally, I didn't want to tell anyone, but if I didn't trust you so much, I would trust you as much as I trust myself. I will definitely not tell you. Then have you thought about what you are going to do during this time? Chu Xia looked at her tangledly. Now you feel that telling the truth to let the elders know is something you cannot accept, but if it affects the baby due to fatigue, can you accept it? Can the elders accept it? Then what should I do? Luo Xiaoxian looked confused. I wouldn't have been impulsive if I had known earlier, but it was such a coincidence. Do you know how I feel these days? I used to worry about those few days every month, but now I look forward to those days to come and bother me. In fact, when I called you, I was afraid of this possibility, so I asked you for advice. Of course, I was still lucky at that time, but since there has been no movement these days, I guess, there is a high chance that this is what happened. How about? After hesitation, she looked at Chusia. How about I just change my job, so that I can stay with Dean Su for more than half a month at most. As long as I'm careful, everything will be fine. If you are staying in the bureau during this period, I have nothing to worry about. The conditions in the places where you go to the countryside for research are extremely difficult. It is not something that you can guarantee safety by being careful. Otherwise, tell Dean Su the truth and ask her to keep you working in the bureau. As for whether to change her, you can also listen to her opinion. Or, it is also a good idea to directly arrange for you to go for further study. It would be easy to ask Jo Mikang to help solve Luo Xiaoxing's work, but doing so would definitely make Dean Su very sad, and the other party was also a friend of his mother-in-law, so it would be even more unethical. Therefore, the best way is for Luo Xiaoxing to confess to Dean Su, and Dean Su will make arrangements for her. She also wants to believe that with Dean Su's openness and telling the truth to the other party, Luo Xiaoxing will definitely understand. After thinking for a while, Luo Xiaoxing agreed to Chu Xia's suggestion. It seemed that this was really the best way. She did not dare to take risks. If something unexpected happened, all her worries would not only come true, but also intensify the harm. By then it will really be a mess that cannot be cleaned up. After the discussion came to a conclusion, Luo Xiaoxing's mood was obviously much more relaxed than before. It was impossible for her to completely relax now. After all, she still had to pass the test of Dean Su. This method was her own choice, and she had to face it by herself. No one could replace her. Chu Xia patted her shoulder comfortingly, sighed and said nothing. If Luo Xiaoxing married someone other than her cousin, and if she didn't understand her cousin's character, she really wanted to scold Luo Xiaoxing, but what should she say now? In terms of the matter, she still thought that Luo Xiaoxing's approach was inappropriate. However, this also showed that Luo Xiaoxing's feelings for Zhao Qiliang had never changed. With Zhao Qiliang's character, he would definitely be obedient to Luo Xiaoxing in the future. So, this kind of impulse can be worth a lifetime of happiness. But, can it really be hidden? Chu Xia was still skeptical about this. After all, the elders knew very well about this kind of thing. As long as Luo Xiaoxing behaved strangely these days, they would never escape their eyes. By then, it would no longer be something she could hide if she wanted to. Although she thought of this possibility, Chu Xia didn't say it. At this moment, Luo Xiaoxing was like a frightened little rabbit, which could calm her down for a while. Actually, making this decision is very difficult. Sighing, Luo Xiaoxing continued, "Do you remember that when they first came back, I called you and spoke hesitantly? You asked me if there was anything wrong at that time, so I told you that it was my colleagues who were gossiping about me. I felt uncomfortable and wanted to let you have some air. Then, you comforted me and told me to report to Dean Su in time to avoid falling into the trap of those people. In fact, what I originally wanted to say that day was about cooking raw rice into cooked rice, but in the end I still didn't speak out." "I understand." Chu Xia patted her again. "I understand the reason why you did this, and I admire your courage. In fact, if you tell the truth to the elders, they will understand." "No," Luo Xiaoxing shook her head without thinking, "my mother would be furious if she knew I made such a decision. I've already disappointed her enough, but I can't add any more trouble to her heart." "Okay, let's do whatever you say." Chu Xia had no choice but to give up this kind of persuasion and instead told her about the things that should be paid attention to in the early stage. Although it has not been checked yet, it is always on time. Suddenly it was delayed for so many days, and the result was almost, there is no suspense. After lunch, the two went to Yun's house. As the driver, Chu Xia chose Wang Zhongliang. Originally, she planned to have Lin Wenbin or Jing Zhe accompany her, but because of Luo Xiaoxing's accident, she decided it would be better to find someone who didn't know how to heal. When the car stopped in front of Jun's house, Jun Daodu happened to come out to see some neighbors off. When he saw the two of them, he immediately rushed over happily. "Why are you two willing to come here now?" "I miss you," Chu Xia said with a smile. "I miss you too." Jun Daodu looked at her with a look of grievance. "You can stay together, but I am alone, so pitiful." Luo Xiaoxing said quickly, "We can't be together either. We haven't seen each other in the past 3 days. Let's go into the house and talk." Jun Daodu pulled the two of them towards his home. "Originally, I was still thinking about whether I should sneak out to look for you after the guests leave, but I didn't expect that I let you take the lead." Jun Daodu's adoptive parents, 2 brothers and 1 sister, were also at Jun's house. After the introductions were made, Jun's father looked at Chu Xia with a grateful face. "Comrade Lin, thank you very much. If it weren't for you, my family Xiao don't talk about being the deputy director of the workshop right now, he probably even lost his job." As he spoke, he glared at Du Xiaodong. "Why don't you quickly say thank you to your benefactor?" No, 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 Chu Xia quickly stopped. "Uncle Du, you are being so polite. Although my husband helped solve Brother Du's work, Brother Du worked very hard on his own to achieve today's development. He fought for it himself." A young woman sitting next to Du Xiaodong quickly answered, "Yes, Dad, it is impossible to become a workshop director just by having the opportunity and without working hard. You can't always veto Xiaodong's efforts. It's not easy for him." "You can't say that. Without the help of Captain Zhou, there would be no place for me to work hard," Du Xiaodong said while bowing deeply to Chu Xia. "Thank you." 1152. First Marriage Then Love, Mr. Mayor Please Be Kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 987. Popular Recommendations. Second update. Following Du Xiaodong's actions, the face of the woman sitting next to him dropped and she looked unhappy. Chu Xia, who originally wanted to be polite to Du Xiaodong, simply accepted the other party's gift calmly and smiled at him. Brother Du's words. "I will pass this on to my husband." When Du Xiaodong reported Wang Jianwei's brother for stealing wires, Wang Jianwei retaliated and rescued him just in time for Zhou Mikang and Chu Xia to send Jun Daodu back to his adoptive parents' home. Wang Jianwei's uncle was the workshop director of Du Xiaobei's factory. He resented Du Xiaobei for getting his 2 nephews into trouble, so he always retaliated against him. Speaking of which, Wang Jianwei's uncle is also confused. If he doesn't have any connections, can he send his 2 nephews to the police? As you can imagine, the result was that due to retaliation, he was removed from his position as workshop director and was transferred to the most miserable and tiring workshop to become an ordinary worker. On the contrary, Du Xiaobei climbed up step by step with his own efforts. Jun Daodu asked Chu Xia to solve all of this, and the actual operator must be the teacher Zhangzi. And Jun Daodu did not hide this from his adoptive parents, so this scene happened now. Du Xiaodong responded with a smile, and lightly touched the woman with an angry face with his foot. She frowned and looked at him. "What? Do you want me to bow to her too?" "Jinmei," Du Xiaodong looked at her dissatisfied, "didn't I tell you what happened today?" "What are you doing?" Without waiting for the other party to speak, he quickly looked at Chuxia and explained, "Jinmei is the best. She hates me for trying to please others, but she has no other intentions, so don't be angry with her." "Brother, pleasing others and thanking others are 2 different concepts." Jun Daodu answered first, then looked at Jinmei with a calm expression. "Sister Jin, since our small temple cannot accommodate a great monk like you, why don't we force it?" "Humph, Jinmei snorted coldly, stood up, and walked out. Du Xiaodong chased him 2 steps away, then turned back to look at his parents hesitantly. Let her go. Father Du frowned and looked at him. Such a woman, not suitable for our family. Du Xiaodong retreated reluctantly. Du Xiaobei curled his lips. He couldn't stand his brother's useless attitude. What's so good about a woman who looks down on others and looks down on others? If it were him, he wouldn't want it long ago. She hasn't married yet and is like this. If she really marries her, will the Du family be completely controlled by her and not be able to say a word? But why does that woman? Jun Daodu was also very dissatisfied with her brother's performance. She has been fostered in the Yun family since she was a child. Her feelings for Du Xiaodong and Du Xiaobei are the same as her feelings for her brothers. Of course, she also hopes that her 2 brothers will be happy. She is still very happy that her brother has found a girlfriend. However, after meeting, she couldn't be happier. Ever since she entered the Jun's house, she had the most powerful expression of the King of Heaven. She really didn't understand where the other party's arrogance came from. Well, let's just be arrogant towards her. They all tolerated it, so why should they be arrogant towards their friends now? Especially, the eldest brother is still relying on the help of his friend today. It's okay to be ungrateful. Why do you show off to others? Now looking at her eldest brother's appearance, she felt like a ball of cotton was stuck in her heart. What is this? So if a woman really marries home, will she still be able to live as a foster parent? For a moment, the atmosphere in the hall became cold. Chu Xia and Luo Xiaoxian felt a little regretful. If they had known earlier, they would not have come to join in the fun. What kind of fuss was going on this big day? I don't like that woman, the way she looks at me is disgusting. It was Jun Qiuqiu who spoke. Because she was not polite to Jun Daodu's adoptive parents before, Lan Alien is now trying her best to make up for it. Therefore, although she can see that Jinmei is not a good person and her attitude towards her own family is a bit too much, she tolerates it. But I didn't expect that, despite enduring it, it would end up like this. Looking at each other with her husband, Lan Alien looked at Father Du and Mother Du, Brother Du and Sister-in-law Du. In fact, not long after you came today, I have been quite puzzled about Jinmei's identity. Her family is a what? Her family and ours used to be neighbors. Later, her father became an official and no longer lived in the same place. Her father and I happened to meet each other at the beginning of the year, and the 2 families started to communicate again. Her father is now the chairman of the labor union of the No. 1 cotton spinning factory. She has always wanted Xiaodong to go to the No. 1 cotton spinning factory, but we all stopped her. She felt angry and felt that we were not sensible. In fact, according to my own opinion, such a daughter-in-law is undesirable, but Xiaodong and Jinmei are good friends, and when we meet again, Jinmei agrees to be with him, so he likes her very much. Jinmei is actually not a bad-hearted child, but, even though her father has become an official in recent years, and everyone respects her, she can't stand it at all. When she is with Xiaodong, she can't stand it either. Guess. She usually gets along well with us, but there is one thing, we have to listen to everything she says. As long as we say something different, she will be reluctant to do so with a face. But she really doesn't have the slightest idea about what happened today. After a pause, Father Du continued, however, she doesn't know the situation at home here. Maybe in her heart, although Xiaodong became the workshop director in the factory, he still had to be controlled by the director and deputy director, which made her feel uncomfortable. She wanted Xiaodong to be more promising, but she was worried that Xiaodong would not listen. I have told her before that it was Captain Zhou who helped Xiaodong when he was bullied. However, we did not tell her about Captain Zhou's situation. Maybe in her heart, not only did she not think that Captain Zhou was helping, but she also felt that Captain Zhou was helping. The regiment leader blocked her way, so he had a bad attitude towards Comrade Lin. I finally saw what the frog in the well is. Chu Xia and Luo Xiaoxian, Jun Daodu, both looked speechless, feeling bored, so Jun Daodu took Jun Qiaqiao and Chu Xia Luo Xiaoxian back to their house. Dong dong dong. Before several people could sit down, there was a knock on the door. Who? Jun Daodu asked impatiently. It's me. The door was gently pushed open, and a pretty girl smiled timidly at several people. Can I come in? Come in. Jun Daodu stepped forward to pull her and closed the door. Sister, I'm not angry with you, I just think it's too cowardly for the eldest brother to find such a person. Anyway, my parents are down here, and they will persuade him of. Yeah. Du Xiaoying nodded. I came here to find you just because I was afraid that my brother would be embarrassed by me there. He sighed. I'm almost pissed off by my brother, and that woman can't even look at her. When anyone goes to our house, he always says that the girl has a good heart, so what's so good about her? But I haven't found anything good about her at all. Sister, calm down. Jun Daodu looked at Chu Xia and Luo Xiaoxian. When I lived with my parents in the past, my sister was very kind to me. She gave me all the delicious food she had. Others scolded me because no one wanted it. She protects my children, even though Xiaodong and Xiaobei are my elder brothers. When it comes to fighting, he is not as good as Sister Xiaoying. Really? Luo Xiaoxian looked at Du Xiaoying with great interest. Looking at how thin and frail you are, you still have such good skills. It seems that you are really beyond appearances. Daodu was talking about when I was a child, but now I'm not that good. Du Xiaoying smiled sheepishly, but just because I got into fights at that time, I got the nickname of a bitch, which is so unpleasant. Sister, you are asking for a reward from me, Jun Daodu said with a smile. Sister, I will remember all the good things you did to me. No need to remind me, I will remember them too. Who reminded you? Du Xiaoying looked at her speechlessly. It was you who brought it up and I said it, and I didn't bring it up on my own initiative. Now that you are getting older and bullying others, you won't let anyone talk to you anymore. Did you see that my sister also has an unforgiving mouth? Jun Daodu said with a smile. Thankfully, my parents are supported by my sister, otherwise, they would have been bullied to death. You don't know, when it was time to cook, when my mother went back to the house to get something, they would steal some oil and soy sauce. It was my sister who found out and made trouble with them, so those people didn't dare anymore. Daodu, can you please stop talking about this? Du Xiaoying looked at Jun Daodu with a red face. You keep saying that, I'm embarrassed to stay here. Okay, I won't talk anymore. Jun Daodu quickly changed the subject. My sister is getting married next month. I haven't met my brother-in-law yet. When will we arrange to meet? What's there to see? Du Xiaoying's face darkened. I wish he was dead now. It's better not to meet someone like that. Also, when the time comes to get married, I won't invite you. Why? Jun Daodu looked at her in surprise, not understanding what she meant. With her parents' personalities, they shouldn't force her sister to marry. Don't ask. Du Xiaoying sighed. Anyway, as long as you know that he is not what I like, I married him because I had no choice. I don't want to hold a ceremony anymore. I'll be done with it once I get the certificate. If we break up one day, we can do it quietly, so it won't be so embarrassing. Chu Xia stood up and stretched out his hand to grab Luo Xiaoxian. Daodu, let's go back first. I will stay here for a few days anyway. You can go find us later, okay? Okay. Jun Daodu didn't force the two of them to stay. Du Xiaoying's marriage was definitely secretive. If the two friends were here, the other party would definitely be embarrassed to tell them. Don't stop. Du Xiaoying stood anxiously and stopped at the door. I don't want you to know that I don't say it, I am. Before the words, she couldn't say. Sister, if you can come here now and tell me like this, it means that you are really depressed because of this matter during this period. Then we, sisters, let's have a good chat. Jun Daodu stepped forward to pull her back. Chu Xia and Zioxian are my best friends, the kind who can talk to each other about anything. We can get together another day. They won't bear my grudge. Sister, please get out of the way. R1152.